So I've had a lot of people on my Twitch channel ask me to do a video on my Atlas build. So here's my video on Atlas. I just want to start off by saying this is not going to be a beginner friendly video per se. This is a very endgame setup. If you guys want me to do a more beginner friendly build or a build just explaining Atlas's abilities more in depth, please let me know in the comments. So this is my Atlas's setup. The main things to note are the augments, path of statues, and rubble heap. Rubble heap allows us, when we have above 1400 armor, it lets our one, the punch, cost no energy, deal twice the damage, as well as travel twice as fast. This is what makes Atlas. This mod is non-negotiable. You need this on the build. Next would be Path of Statues, which allows us to leave a trail behind us when we use our one, which will further petrify enemies. This allows us to upkeep our armor, and it is just a very good quality of life in general. As for the rest of the mods, I have triple Umbra formed my Atlas. There is no need to. It is excessive. I don't recommend it. At most, you will need two, but you really don't need it. The Umbral mods are there for survivability with fiber and vitality, as well as increasing his strength with Umbral Intensify, and of course the set bonus when you have all three of them on. Adaptation, also just for more survivability. And Primed Flow helps synergize with the Tau Shards, which I will talk about in a second. Steel Charge, more damage for the melee, which applies to his punch. And Cunning Drift, because that tiny bit of ability range actually does help. As for Arcanes, I run Molt Augmented to increase our strength as we kill enemies, and Arcane Fury to just give us more melee damage. So for the Subsume, I put on Eclipse instead of Atlas's 2. Eclipse will further boost our damage by giving us a final damage multiplier. You can use Roar instead. I just prefer Eclipse because it's a faster cast and it's recastable. It's a personal preference. You can easily go Roar as well. For Archon Shards, I have gone for 5 Tau Forged Violet Shards. Each one of these gives melee crit damage, and when our energy is over 500, which is why we have Primed Flow, the damage boost doubles. So more punch damage. For the stat stick, I use Cybear Incarnate, and there's several reasons to that. Mainly, it's for the increased crit chance by 25%. Atlas's punch at base has a 5% crit chance. With this node, it increases it to 30%. This node gives us more combo duration, which is very handy. And then this last node is more damage. As for the mods on my Cybear, everything here is purely to boost Atlas's punch damage. The weapon is still usable, but it is mainly just for scaling punches damage as high as possible. Sacrificial Steel gives us crit chance, pressure point, more melee damage. Blood Rush scales our crit chance. With our combo, Organ Shatter and Gladiator Might both give crit damage, as well as Gladiator Might giving a bit more crit chance per combo count. I've opted for Radiation because I'm using Melee Exposure as my arcane, which will give corrosive damage on ability cast, which I will be doing a lot of because all Atlas does is punch. Obviously, not everyone is going to have a very good Riven for Cyber like I do. If you don't have a Riven on your Cyber, you can easily opt out to using something like Spoiled Strike instead. As for the Tennokai mod, you don't necessarily need a Tennokai mod. I just have it on so that if I do decide to Incarnate Evolve my melee in mission, I can do it within 4 melee hits without consuming my melee counter. There's only one operator arcane that matters for this build, and that would be Magus Aggress. This gives us a 300% crit damage on the next 4 consecutive attacks when we melee transference, but this crit damage doesn't disappear. So as long as you don't attack with the Cyber, you will have a permanent 300% crit damage for Atlas Punch. And if you do lose it in some chance, you can reset it after 20 seconds. And then for the Focus School, we run Neramon just for Power Spike. This makes sure our combo doesn't completely decay if we don't punch anything within our combo count timer. For the companion, I've opted to run Panzer Vulpaphyla. This is because Hunter Recovery on Panzer is very good. The viral quills are able to spread to many targets, and all that damage does count towards Hunter Recovery. This helps keeps Atlas's health up, which allows us to gain armor instead of healing our health when we pick up Rubble. So Tenacious Bond and Bite are also needed on the build, just because Bite allows our pet to have the 50% needed to gain the 1.2 final crit multiplier on all our equipment. As for the rest of the mods, it is all for quality of life and survivability. Link Vitality, Link Fiber, that helps scales our pet's health and armor. Prime Pack Leader allows us to heal and give our pet Overguard, which does work off Atlas's Punch. Atlas Punch will heal our pet and give it Overguard. Martyr Symbiosis, in the very rare case that I do die, our pet will die for us instead. Fetch, always a must on your pet. And Animal Instinct, which is always a must as well. I actually don't run Panzer Devolution for the reason that Hunter Recovery doesn't work when your pet is in its larval state. When your pet is down, the remaining spores will always count towards Hunter Recovery, but if it is downed in the larval state, it'll stop that completely. For the primary, I'm running the Prismagorgon Incarnate, and there's a specific reason for that. The main reason being Metamorphic Magazine. This lets us petrify targets with the gun, which helps save energy and helps a lot with the initial startup of the build. Any Gorgon would work fine. I just happen to have the Prisma one. As for the mod setup, I have built it purely for fire rate, punch through, and multi-shot. I have primary Frostbite, which further increases the multi-shot when an enemy is affected by a cold status. And then the Riven just has cold and multi-shot on it. If you don't have a Riven, you can easily just opt out for a cold damage mod. Having the Gorgon Incarnate really doesn't matter. I never use the Incarnate mode when using the Gorgon. If anything, I only have it for the increased status chance as well as the increased reload speed. Other than that, if you do not have the Prismagorgon Incarnate, it doesn't matter. All that matters on the Prismagorgon is having Metamorphic Magazine. Last but not least, we have the Grimoire. All I have the Grimoire for is Zada Invocation. That's just to get energy regen for startup. That is the only reason I use the tome. It's just for energy regen. But for any secondary you're running, you're going to want secondary dexterity for the increased combo duration. So before I finish up this video, I will do a quick demonstration of how the build plays in a mission. I am currently on Mott Steel Path Survival.
Just shut down all systems. I'm sending life support capsules your way.
So to start off with, I use the Grimoire to hit some enemies, get some energy up. Use the Gorgon to petrify enemies and then punch them for the armor. All this right now is just to build up our armor to plus 1400. Startup is slow on this build, I will admit, but it is definitely worth it once built up. So now we're at 1500 armor, we can trigger Magus Aggress and start punching freely. So now we should have max combo on our melee, and this is when we will be doing max damage with our punch. Need be, we can trigger Eclipse for even larger numbers. And as you can see, the build does produce very high numbers. Right, so now Vor and the Acolyte are about to spawn, and the build makes very quick work of both of them.
When you need it, extraction is ready.
So that was the Acolyte. And that was Vor. So that's my Atlas build. Thanks everyone for watching. I do stream on Twitch regularly. The link will be down in the description. If you want me to make more videos like this, please let me know. Any comments, feedback, and suggestions would be greatly appreciated. So thanks for watching.